Okay, we're getting ready to install a package of bees into this frame, into this hive. We've got 10 frames in the hive, which is standard, but when you include a queen cage in there to hold the queen, you can only fit 9 in comfortably. In addition to that, I'll pull out a couple of frames here. I try and look through there and choose the frames that really don't look like they're in tip-top shape. And then what we'll do is we'll put in winter feed honey that didn't get eaten, so the bees will have something to work on. I put that in just one frame, and then I'll put another frame of winter feed in here. Now the bees will have 5 frames here that they can brood up on, and that gives them plenty of space to get going. By the time they brood out to the 5th frame, they'll have eaten out the honey on these guys and have plenty of space to expand into. We have the queen hanging on a little tab. I put a matchstick on that so that it'll actually hold it between the frames here. What we'll do is we will pull the feeder can out and get the queen out. Prior to the installation of the bees, it's always a lot easier to have the queen in the hive before you put your package of bees in. Big pile of bees to get her hanging exactly where you want her to be. I put a little piece of plywood over the top of that to keep the bees from getting out too much while I'm working with the queen. And then I'll shake the queen cage off in the box. I'll check her, make sure that she's walking around in there, that she looks happy and healthy. I guess I don't know if you can really tell whether she's happy or not. This is probably the first time she's seen daylight in the last 4 or 5 days, because she's surrounded by that cluster of bees. What I'm doing now is I'm replacing that cork with a miniature marshmallow. I chose the miniature marshmallow since it's after Easter. I chose the colored ones because they're a little more photogenic, I guess. Also because that's what we happen to have laying on the shelf. So I'll put that queen, hang her right there between those frames so that she's nice and steady in there. And then I'll shake the bees right in on top of her. Really not a whole lot to shaking bees. They fly, and you can see that they fly pretty well. They tend to fly if you drop them a long ways, and they'll fly if they can. And so a lot of times what beekeepers will do when they're installing packages, they'll take some sugar water in a sprayer and they'll just spray the bees down a little bit. It makes their wings a little bit sticky and keeps them from flying quite so much. In addition to that, they'll have a food source that they'll lick off of each other, and they'll have full bellies going into the hive, which is always a good thing. So we'll just take and dump these bees right onto the hive. The lower you can hold that package, the better it's going to be, because the bees will hang on to each other instead of fly. If you just let them come out and form a big pile, you can see they just pour out just like a bunch of pinto beans, really. They hang on to anything they can. If you bang the cage around enough times, it just knocks them off their feet. Doesn't hurt them, they wind up on the top of the pile. It'll take a little while. They'll start moving on down into the cracks there once they discover that there's comb down below them where they want to be. You can see some of them are around the edges. When they get that scent of that comb down there, they start fanning their wings and sending up a signal. Then you'll see all the bees start to migrate, and they'll all crawl down off the pile. You can see there's a general movement down in this direction now, and it won't be very long before those bees are all down in there. See, this one's sending up quite a signal here. Fanning, it's got its abdomen arched back up, it's got its scent gland open, and it's really sending out a signal. Those other bees will smell that and go right on in. We'll give them just a few minutes. You can see the general direction of that march. They're just starting to spread out and go on down in there. We'll come back in just a few minutes and finish closing this up. We'll know when it's time to close it up when there is clearly defined cracks between those top bars. In the meantime, what we can do is we can come down here and open up this entrance a little bit, give them a space to come in and out, and they'll start orienting towards that new entrance. It won't be long before you'll see bees sitting down here at the entrance, hanging on and fanning that same scent out. These guys, see the general movement here? They're all moving out, they're all spreading out, they're all pouring down into those cracks. But these bees are all signaling. They're saying, look at this one right here. It's got its back arched. You can see that scent gland open right on the very top of it. And it's fanning that pheromone up into the general atmosphere. It says that the hive is this way, they've found a home, and all of these bees are starting to do the same thing. These bees, these few ones that are flying around out here, they'll smell that and they'll actually come down and come into the hive. You can see them really start to take off and move down in there. You're starting to see the cracks open up. This hive is anxious to get into their new home. You can hear the general noise of those bees getting louder and louder, and you can start to see these top bars show. You can start to see the cracks here. They're all moving down in. Now you'd think that if you take a box of bees and pull the lid off and shake them off onto something, that they'd all fly away, but exactly the opposite is what happens. These guys want to be in the hive, and so if they can find a place that they can nest in, all the better for them. And you can see that they're really going down in the cracks now. They're just piling down there. Start to see those cracks develop all the way along there. You've got bees on the outside. This one's sending up a good scent. You can see that scent gland is opened right up. That little bit of white on the very back end. Yeah, look at them all. They're all fanning all up in here. See, it's at this point that you can actually take your hive tool and start bringing these frames back together a little bit, because the bees don't need all that much space and spread out in there. Then you'll be able to add that extra frame right to the side here. If you leave them spread open like this, what they'll do is they'll start building comb in between. And once they start building comb in between, then it makes it a real mess trying to get that all taken care of and back the way it needs to be. We'll go ahead and stick this good looking frame here. We'll just slide that frame right down inside here. See, when you crowd them together like this and slide frames over, there's no pile of bees down below, and you can just drop that frame in knowing that you're not going to squash anybody. We'll bring these bees back inside the hive a little bit. Give them a little tiny bit of sugar water. Then I'll put my feeder system on it, which is nothing more than a piece of foil-backed foam. Back in place here. Tap on it a little bit and those bees will crawl right out from under it. And then the box will go on top.